challenge them. Only small states like the Kingdom of Mysore stood in Britain's way. Mysore's leader, Tipu Sultan, wasn't a Mughal, but he understood that the British were bent on total domination.
Tipu Sultan is seen as one of the most successful and enlightened rulers of India, and certainly one of the most successful in trying to hold back the British. He was, and his father before him, the major barrier to the extension of British interests in southern India.
At the Battle of Polilar on September 10, 1780, a British brigade of close to 4,000 troops encountered Tipu Sultan's forces. Tipu unleashed his ultimate weapon, rockets. The British had faced Indian rockets before. Traditionally, the Indians made them out of bamboo.
Bamboo was very much the material of choice, and it provided quite a strong, lightweight container into which the gunpowder could be packed.
Simon West is a lieutenant colonel in the British Army. At the Royal Military College of Science, he's building working models of Indian rockets.
Now, the bamboo casing was fine for display purposes or signaling, but because it hadn't got much inherent strength, it was difficult to get lots of pressure built up.
But the rockets the British faced at Polilar were made out of metal, not bamboo. West believes that that made them much more effective.
If we can find something that's stronger, it means that we can get the gunpowder burning quicker, producing more pressure, more speed, and speed equals range. So a metal casing gives a rocket longer range.
A rare example of Tipu's metal rocket is at London's Firepower Royal Artillery Museum. It's thought to have come from Tipu's own arsenal.
And this particular one is interesting from a number of viewpoints. It contains everything that you need in a rocket. It has an iron cylinder in which the rocket propellant is packed, closed at one end, and with a hole at the other end for the escaping gases to emerge and to propel the thing along its trajectory.
Indian rockets typically had guidance sticks to keep them stable in flight. But the guidance sticks on Tipu's rockets served another more sinister purpose. They were also sword blades.
Now, these rockets were not particularly stable, especially when they started to come towards the end of their flight. And it's thought that something like this would have tumbled as it came to the end of its trajectory, causing considerable damage to anybody who had the misfortune of getting in its way.
Indian rockets were famous for veering off in all directions. But accuracy wasn't necessary for them to be effective.
When it comes to trying to defeat an enemy, it's not necessarily just the casualties and death and destruction that you're trying to create. An enemy will just as easily be defeated by being frightened and losing the will to win.
West is going to test his replicas of the bamboo and metal rockets. To do that, he needs to go to a military firing range. First, he's going to launch the bamboo rocket.
Well, the bamboo rocket went really quite well, but it was impossible for me to pack in enough powder to really get a good burn and get some long range. What we're going to be able to do with the steel tube is we can pack more explosive in, so it's a very much more effective rocket.
Now he's going to fire one of Tipu's more powerful metal rockets. They were said to have a range of 1.5 miles.
Because it's slightly riskier, I'm going to do this remotely. So I'm going to wire it up now, and we'll fire it and see what happens.
For multiple launching, Tipu created his own rocket organ, capable of launching 5 to 10 rockets at once.
Stand by. Firing now. If it's all right with you, I'm going to have another go. Take two. Firing now. Well, that was far better. Very happy with that in terms of additional range and additional height. And you can picture now what it would be like to have those blades raining down on top of you. And it must have been very, very frightening for the British soldiers to see this new weapon system and then have to cope with these sword blades coming in and amongst them.
The British encountered these new metal rockets for the first time at the Battle of Pollilur in 1780. Tipu's rockets set fire to a British ammunition cart, which contributed to the defeat and surrender of the British brigade.
Tipu had masses of rocket men, perhaps 6,000 in his army, who would deploy their rockets en masse and fire them in enormous volleys at the enemy, and was an extremely dangerous thing for the enemy, as one can imagine.
Tipu Sultan's forces held out against the British for over 20 years. In 1799, after a series of setbacks, there was a decisive battle at Seringapatam. It was Tipu's last stand. He unleashed his rockets.
They would probably have fired their rockets en masse, together in volleys, in devastating arrays.
Tipu's massive rocket bombardment wasn't enough. Tipu lost the battle, and the British domination of India was complete. But India's rocket technology would live on. The British copied the design and used it against the American army in the War of 1812. One such attack made a powerful impression on a young American soldier. His name was Francis Scott Key. When he wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, the rocket's red glare would forever immortalize India's superweapon. In just 300 years, the Mughals had skyrocketed to fantastic wealth and power, only to come back down to earth. By 1858, it was all over. The victorious British exiled the last Mughal emperor, and Queen Victoria was named Empress of India. It was the end of one empire and the dawn of another. But the Mughals had not disappeared. They left the world a legacy that survives to this day.